Poland sits at a critical juncture in Europe, a geographical and political crossroads that has shaped its history and continues to influence its trajectory. Its central location makes it a key player in European affairs. Its geography, a mix of plains, forests and mountains, has not only defined its landscape but also played a significant role in shaping its destiny. The natural resources and strategic positioning have been both a blessing and a challenge throughout the centuries. To the east, it borders Belarus and Ukraine, nations with complex histories and ongoing geopolitical struggles. This eastern frontier has historically been a zone of cultural exchange, conflict and shifting alliances. To the west, Germany, once the edge of the Iron Curtain, a stark reminder of the Cold War era and the division of Europe. This border represents not only a geographical boundary but also a transition from one political and economic system to another. This makes Poland a frontline state for the EU, bearing the responsibility of safeguarding the Union's eastern flank and managing its relationship with its eastern neighbours. A gateway between east and west, Poland serves as a crucial transit corridor for trade, energy and cultural exchange, connecting diverse regions and economies. Its borders are more than lines on a map. They're symbols of sovereignty, national identity and vulnerability in an increasingly interconnected world. They represent the tangible limits of its authority and the challenges of protecting its interests. The eastern border is now the EU's external frontier, a critical point of contact and potential friction between the Union and its eastern neighbours, placing heavy responsibility on Poland to manage who enters the Schengen area, ensuring security while upholding humanitarian principles and international obligations. This task requires careful balancing and constant vigilance. Decisions in Warsaw ripple across the continent, affecting EU policy, security strategies and the overall direction of the European project. Its voice carries weight in Brussels and beyond. After decades under Soviet influence, a period of political and economic hardship, Poland emerged with a renewed determination to chart its own course. Joining NATO and the EU marked Poland's return to the Western fold, solidifying its commitment to democracy, free markets and European integration. Today the challenge is not invading armies, but the complex and multifaceted movement of people seeking refuge, economic opportunity and a better life. Poland must balance EU obligations, navigating the often conflicting demands of solidarity, security and national interest, international law upholding the principles of human rights and the rule of law in its treatment of migrants and refugees, and domestic politics in a rapidly changing landscape, responding to the concerns and anxieties of its citizens while upholding its international commitments. How it responds will define its role in Europe's future, shaping not only its own destiny, but also the future of the continent as a whole. Its actions will resonate far beyond its borders. The situation at Poland's borders, with the increasing number of individuals seeking refuge, is far from a spontaneous event. It's not simply a matter of people seeking a better life, it's a complex issue, deeply rooted in a confluence of global crises and calculated political strategy. These aren't isolated incidents, they are interconnected events playing out on the world stage, with vulnerable people caught in the middle. Since 2021, Belarus, under the leadership of Alexander Lukashenko, has been accused of orchestrating what many describe as a hybrid warfare campaign. This involves using non-military tactics to destabilize neighboring countries. A key element of this alleged campaign involves luring migrants from the Middle East and Africa with false promises of easy entry into the European Union. These individuals, often desperate for a better future, are deliberately misled. Many of these migrants are flown to Minsk, the capital of Belarus, and then strategically pushed towards the Polish border. This orchestrated movement creates immense pressure on Poland's border security and resources. The migrants find themselves trapped in the harsh, unforgiving forests along the border, facing dire conditions with limited access to food, water and medical assistance. They are essentially caught between two opposing forces. Poland faces an agonizing dilemma. On one hand, it must defend its borders against what it perceives as a state-sponsored destabilization effort. On the other hand, it is confronted with a growing humanitarian crisis unfolding right at its doorstep, demanding compassion and assistance. The current situation stands in stark contrast to Poland's overwhelmingly welcoming response to the influx of Ukrainian refugees in 2022, a time when the country opened its arms and homes to those fleeing war. While Ukrainian refugees received a warm welcome and widespread support, those arriving via Belarus are often viewed with suspicion, seen as pawns in a hostile political game rather than genuine refugees seeking safety and protection. This distinction significantly shapes official policy, leading the government to frame the situation at the eastern border primarily as a security issue, with humanitarian concerns taking a secondary role in the decision-making process. The fundamental debate over who truly deserves protection and under what circumstances lies at the very heart of Poland's current crisis, forcing the nation to grapple with complex moral and political questions. Poland's government frames its border policy as a matter of national security. Officials argue that Belarus and Russia are using migrants to destabilize Poland and the EU. In response, Poland built a steel wall and empowered border guards to push back irregular crosses. These measures, though controversial, are defended as essential for state protection. The government also cites concerns about cultural cohesion and economic strain, resonating with many Poles. As the EU's border guardian, Poland claims it's protecting all member states from a repeat of past migration crises. For Warsaw, a strong border is synonymous with a secure Europe. Polish society is divided, but many harbour deep fears about refugees. Security concerns dominate, with migrants from the east often portrayed as potential threats. Cultural anxieties run high in a nation proud of its homogeneity and Catholic heritage. Economic worries about jobs, welfare and resources fuel resistance to large-scale immigration. Politicians and media amplify these fears, warning of social tensions seen elsewhere in Europe. Yet a vocal minority offers aid and compassion, challenging the dominant narrative. This internal conflict pits humanitarian values against fears of change and insecurity. The debate over refugees is a mirror of Poland's broader struggle with identity and modernity. Citizen patrols have emerged along Poland's western border with Germany. These self-styled patriots monitor for vehicles suspected of transporting migrants westward. Frustrated by perceived government inaction, they see themselves as defenders of national security. Their activities, coordinated via social media, are controversial, raising concerns about vigilantism and civil rights. Critics warn of harassment and racial profiling, while legal experts question their legitimacy. These patrols reflect deep-seated anxieties and a lack of trust in official institutions. For some, migration is not just policy, it's a personal call to action. German authorities are feeling the impact of increased unauthorized entries from Poland. In response, Germany has ramped up border checks, straining resources and sparking tension. Reports of German police pushing migrants back into Poland have led to diplomatic disputes. Poland accuses Germany of violating international protocols, while Germany faces domestic pressure to curb migration. The situation exposes flaws in the EU's asylum system, which places heavy burdens on frontline states. Migrants moving from Poland to Germany highlight the system's failure and fuel cross-border friction. National interests clash with EU ideals, revealing the limits of European solidarity. The Polish-German border is now a flashpoint in a broader European migration crisis. Poland's migration stance is deeply rooted in its history of occupation and struggle for sovereignty. Centuries of foreign domination forged a fierce desire to protect national identity and borders. The trauma of war and communist isolation left Poland unusually homogeneous and wary of outside influence. Today's migration crisis is seen by many as another threat to hard-won independence. Yet Poland's own history includes waves of emigration and moments of tolerance. Some Poles invoke this legacy to argue for compassion toward refugees. The result is a nation torn between defensive patriotism and humanitarian memory. These competing narratives shape every debate about who belongs within Poland's borders. The refugee debate in Poland is a complex and multifaceted issue, deeply woven into the nation's social and political fabric. It's a conversation happening at every level of society, from the halls of government to the kitchen tables of ordinary families. It is shaped by a chorus of voices, each with its own perspective and concerns. These voices represent a wide spectrum of opinions and experiences, reflecting the diverse nature of Polish society itself. Government officials stress security, often framing migrants as potential tools in a hostile campaign orchestrated by external actors. Their primary focus is on maintaining order and protecting the nation's borders. Meanwhile, humanitarian activists working tirelessly on the border see a profound moral crisis unfolding before their eyes. They emphasize the human suffering and the urgent need for compassion and assistance. These activists often risk arrest and legal repercussions to provide essential aid to those in need, driven by a deep sense of moral obligation. Legal experts acknowledge the legitimacy of security concerns, but also warn that pushbacks and the construction of border walls may violate fundamental principles of international law and human rights conventions. They advocate for solutions that balance security with legal obligations. The stark difference in treatment between Ukrainian refugees, who are largely welcomed with open arms, and Middle Eastern refugees, who often face significant obstacles and hostility, raises uncomfortable questions of consistency, fairness, and potential bias within the system. Ordinary citizens find themselves conflicted, sympathetic to the suffering of those seeking refuge, but also understandably anxious about the potential strain on resources, the impact on their communities, and the overall safety and security of their nation. Many wholeheartedly support helping Ukrainian refugees, viewing them as fellow Europeans in desperate need of assistance, but balk at the idea of accepting migrants from further afield, often citing cultural differences, economic concerns, or security risks. The ongoing conversation is therefore marked by ambivalence, fear, and compassion in equal measure, creating a complex and often contradictory public discourse. Poland's response to the refugee crisis is shaped as much by deeply ingrained emotions and historical experiences as it is by rational policy considerations and legal frameworks. The search for a sustainable and equitable balance between these competing factors continues, with no easy answers or simple solutions readily in sight. Poland's border crisis is entangled with EU law, which guarantees the right to seek asylum. Pushbacks are widely considered illegal, but Poland and others have legalized them, citing security threats. This has led to clashes with Brussels as the EU struggles to enforce its own rules. The new EU Migration Pact aims for solidarity, requiring states to share responsibility or support. Poland and Hungary resist seeing it as an attack on sovereignty. Fragmentation reigns, walls go up, spot checks increase, and disputes multiply. The Polish border is a microcosm of Europe's unresolved migration dilemma, security law, and humanity in constant tension.